Okay, it being 7 p.m., today is the 18th of January, 2022. This is the regularly scheduled Arundel Planning Board meeting on Zoom. I will give a roll call. Paul Green is here, James Lowery, Tom McGinn, Susan Roth. I'm Rich Ganong, the chairman. We'll have an approval of the agenda, approval of minutes from January 4th, public comment, which is available for people who are in the audience and are not going to address anything that's on the application. Let the record show Susan Sinnott just signed in. The first item we have is Muldoon subdivision, a final plan. We are having a public hearing. They're proposing to subdivide tax map 32 lot 12, 11.26 acres on Lombard Road into 3 lots. John and Susan Muldoon are the owner applicants, and Norman Chamberlain, PE of Walsh Engineering Associates, is the applicant's agent. We then have a pending application. Item 1, Muldoon subdivision, final plan. Then we have a new application for Solari Self-Storage, a site plan review pre-application. We'll then have other business, the town planners report, and we'll be looking at a proposed first review of a subdivision amendment, section 12.8, dealing with utilities, and then we'll quit and go home. So I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Tom, seconded by Paul to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Those in favor, Paul,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
Susan Sinnott,
Aye.
Tom again.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Approval of the minutes of January 4th, 2022.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Is
So,
there,
second?
okay. Motion by Paul Green, seconded by Susan Roth to approve the minutes as written. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jamie,
Aye.
Susan Sinnott,
Aye.
Tom again. Oh, Tom stepped away for a minute. Susan Roth,
Aye.
Paul Green.
Aye.
We have 5 in favor and 1 abstention. Next item, public comment. As I stated earlier, this is the time in which any members of the public that have comments that they would like to make regarding anything that is not on the agenda, things that you'd like us to look at some point in the future, that'll be great. Anybody have any such comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to the iPhone just lit up. Well, I don't know who that is because most of them either give me a picture or a name, but in this particular case, it just says an iPhone. We will move on to the public hearing. It is 7:03. The public hearing for Muldoon subdivision, a subdivision final plan. John and Susan Medora are proposing to subdivide tax map 32 lot 12, 11.26 acres on Lombard Road into 3 lots. John and Susan Muldoon are the owner applicants, and Norman Chamberlain, PE of Walsh Engineering Associates, is the applicant's agent. Does anybody from the public wish to speak at this time? In that case, hearing none, I will close the public hearing at 7:04. Yes, 7:04, and we will move right into the pending application. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
No.
Is anyone here from the,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Bill Walsh is here, and
I'm sorry, Norm, I'm stepping in for Norm today.
Okay. And I thought there was somebody else that was here, but I'm probably wrong. First time today. If you believe that, I have a bridge I'd like to sell you.
So what is the name of the individual? Oh, Bill Walsh. Okay, got it.
So the only question I have is that last week, we had some items that we wanted to be put onto the plan. DJ, were they put on there?
Yes, the biggest issue, of course, was that you wanted to make sure that there was a template that showed fire trucks could maneuver in the hammerhead on lot number 3.
Yep.
The applicant has provided that to us. We have that in the folder and everything is adequate there. I believe that the other part of that discussion was that we were going to allow above ground poles along what is now going to be called stretch lane. But they would be underground from the pole to the homes. I believe they've put that on the plan as well. And I'm at home tonight, so I don't have my files with me, of course. I believe there was, I'm trying to remember if there was a condition of the approval that needed to be added to the plan as well. But I know that Norm had revised those plans accordingly and got them back to us.
And we took care of the waivers too, Lee J.
You will, yes, you took care of those as far as letting them know, but the waivers did need to be added to the plans. I believe they were added as well to the recording plan.
Okay, yeah, the only other one that I knew of was Jamie's, that lots 1 and 3 must use, their access must be through the private way.
Correct.
And we're sure those are written in there because I don't have them, the changed wording in our documents for this evening.
I'll turn to Bill and ask Bill if he's checked the plan to make sure those were all addressed.
Are you looking for my microphone? Yes, those were in fact all addressed, so we can make sure that's on the final plan when we get it to you for signing.
To the chair.
Yes,
So Bill, we haven't met officially, and I don't want to be the tail that wags the dog, but I think we had a consensus, even though our vote didn't go that way, that we feel it would be beneficial if the Muldoons took the extra steps to put the power lines underground. We feel, or at least I feel very strongly that it will improve the visual aesthetics, not to see power poles going up stretch lane. We hope the Muldoons, or rather, I hope the Muldoons will take the initiative to do that and improve the overall look of the properties that they're developing. So that's my only comment. I mean, I can't force you to do it, but I think it would be a great enhancement if they did.
Understood, and I'll convey that to the Muldoons.
To
Please.
the chair.
yes,
Bill, just not to harp on it, but the same thing. I'm one of the guys that proposed that we don't make it a requirement because we didn't have anything in our zoning or rules that required it. But I really strongly suggest you guys look at that, especially if you're putting high-end houses down there.
Sure.
It makes a world of difference. I'm going through it right now, so that's why I can tell you that. And that's why I balked at it because of the price. But I will tell you, if you're going to spread it over 3 houses, it's not really that bad.
Okay, I will certainly convey that to the Muldoons.
That's all I've got as far as this is concerned. Otherwise, and it looks
Jamie, Tom,
ready.
anything for the applicant?
No, nothing on my end.
Okay. Then we shall proceed with the notice of decision and findings of fact. For a minor subdivision application, January 18th, 2022. The developer is John and Susan Muldoon. The engineer is Walsh Engineering from Westbrook, Maine. The project is a 3-lot minor subdivision with a private drive, tax map 32 lot 12. The board entertained the application in November as a sketch review to introduce the application, initially looking at the drive access as an estate lot access. Upon review and during the site visit, the applicant has chosen to create the access as a private drive that has been given and has given the planning board a better level of comfort with the proposed design. On January 4th, 2022, the applicant appeared in front of the board for a public hearing. During the,
That should actually be public meeting.
okay. Yeah, I didn't
I will
think we had a
change
public
that.
hearing.
Yes, I'm changing it as we go. I'm on the file now. Go ahead.
Okay, upon review and during the site visit, wrong level. On January 4th, 2022, the applicant appeared in front of the board for a public meeting. During the meeting, the board had a discussion regarding underground power or overhead power. The board decided as the applicant to provide overhead power to feed the sites, but take the power underground in the homes from the poles along the drive. The applicant was seeking 3 waivers to the submissions, which were granted in a 6-0 vote. The waivers included Article 6, Section 6.3 D10, high-intensity soil survey. WEA feels this waiver request is reasonable as the overall development on site will be of minimal impact. Preliminary soils testing has been conducted on site and shows suitable soils for septic disposal exists at each lot. Article 6, Section 6.3 D21, hydrogeologic assessment. WEA feels this waiver request is reasonable for this low-density development as it is not located within a significant sand and gravel aquifer as mapped by the Maine Geological Survey. We do not anticipate that this project will have any adverse effects upon local groundwater supply and quality. Article 6, Section 6.3 D28, timber harvesting narrative. WEA feels that this waiver request is reasonable due to the fact that the parcel is largely meadow. No timber harvesting operations have taken place on site since the owner acquired the parcel. No clearing of trees is necessary to make this project successful. The application was found complete and a public hearing was set for January 18th, 2022. 11.1, pollution. The project
Chair?
is- Hello?
Before you continue, because through the narrative, we did talk about quite clearly that we did want it put and discuss that there'd be no other access to the road. That was another big point that we talked about besides the power lines, that access would only be done through the new private road. Is there something you want to put in the narrative, or we just want to not put that in there at all?
It is a note on the plan. So if,
Yeah, it will be a condition of the approval.
Okay.
I can
Just wanted
add
make
it to
sure
the
because that
narrative.
was a long discussion we had as well.
I can add it to the narrative. That's not
no, I think
difficult.
as long as it's a condition of the approval.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure before we go into each individual thing to approve or not approve that was part, because that was a long discussion that we had. Because it says on the board, we discussed this and that, so that was another discussion that we had.
Yeah,
I don't see that as a condition of the approval, Vijay, on the findings of fact.
No, you,
I know it's on the plan.
right.
I'm just going from the way that your narrative is written. We had a long discussion about the power plant, the points. We had a long discussion about the fact that we want to make sure that that the buffer is maintained and that the only access that they currently have and will have moving forward from the private road, and that is it. And that is not listed on your narrative form before we go into each article. So I just want to know where would that be placed?
So in the minutes, it says Mr. Lowry requested a note be added to the plan limiting access to lot 3 and 1 to the private drive, reading as follows. Lot 1 and 3 must access the private way let's see, Ian must have missed something in my handwritten notes. Because all it says is lots 3 and 1 to the private drive, reading as follows. Lot 1 and 3 must access the private way.
Why not number 2?
From what I'm remembering, number 2 has to.
Yeah.
Doesn't have any access off of
Any other direction?
any other
Correct,
road, right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll just add it in my narrative. I'll add it for you. Not a big
All
deal.
right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
11.1 pollution. The project is for a 3-lot subdivision on 11.26 acres. All 3 lots had passing soils for septic systems. 11.2 sufficient water. The subdivision is served by on-site individual wells. 11.3 impact on existing water supplies is not applicable. 11.4 soil erosion. The applicant has provided appropriate erosion control measures to address this standard. 11.5 traffic conditions. The applicant has met all standards in its design regarding access to the drive serving the 3 lots. 11.6 sewage disposal. The applicant provides all the necessary information for septic system designs that can pass the state's HHE 200 standards. 11.7 impact on municipalities' ability to dispose of solid waste. A private waste hauler will be retained for individual solid waste pickup. 11.8 preservation of natural beauty and aesthetics. This field is an open field. Most of the land will be retained as open space and open fields, since only 3 homes will be constructed on 11.2 acres. 11.9 conformance with the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, and other land use ordinances. This application has met the standards of the zoning ordinance in conformance with the town's comprehensive plan. I'm sorry, I thought somebody said something.
No.
11.10, financial and technical capacity. The applicant has demonstrated this capacity by engaging a professional engineer to design and permit the project. 11.11, impact on water quality or shoreline is not applicable. 11.12, impact on groundwater quality or quantity. Due to the low density of this development, the hydrogeological study was waived by the planning board. 11.13, floodplain management. The southern tip of the parcel is abutted by Goff's Mill Brook. As a result, a small portion of the southern property boundary is located within flood zone A as mapped by FEMA. The rest of the parcel is not located within a flood hazard area as mapped by FEMA. 11.14, identification of freshwater wetlands. There are no existing areas of wetlands located on site as delineated by Scott Goddard, PWS of Goddard Consulting LLC, and located by Lower Village Survey Company. 11.15, stormwater management. The applicant has supplied a stormwater design and calculations for the property, which meet the standards for the required storm periods. 11.16, reservation or dedication and maintenance of open space and common land facilities and services. The site has a net density of 11.12 acres, allowing for 3.7 lots on the site, leaving 7.4 acres of open space. The applicant has submitted a street maintenance agreement for the lot owners to maintain for the drive for the future. 11.17, compliance with timber harvesting standards is not applicable. This application is approved by the planning board on this day, January 18th, 2022, with the following waivers and conditions for map 32, lot 12. Article 6, section 6.3D10, high intensity soil survey. Didn't I
You
just-
can just read the highlighted sections if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Article 6, section 6.3D12, hydrogeological assessment, and Article 6, section 6.3D28, timber harvesting narrative, which are referenced in the narrative on page 1. Conditions, number 1, the applicant shall provide a performance guarantee consistent with Article 13 of the subdivision regulations. Number 2, the applicant complies with all oral and written materials submitted to the planning board during deliberations. So approved by the planning board this 18th day of January 2022. Need a motion and a second.
Move to approve.
Second.
Paul, you made that motion?
I did. Jamie.
Jamie did, okay. Motion by Jamie, seconded by Tom. Is there any debate? Hearing none. Those in favor? Tom?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Susan Sinnet?
Aye.
Paul Green?
Aye.
Susan Roth?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I will get this scanned in and sent out to the board for your signatures. Oh, actually,
Yes, I will,
I'll wait
I
until-
can send, Mr. Chairman, I can send that to you probably in the morning. I've added, just so you're aware, in the narrative at the beginning, I added the board discussed the need to limit access to lots 1 and 3 over the private drive and not being accessed by any other way. A note will be added to the plan which limits access to these lots over the private drive only.
Okay, excellent.
So I've added that to the narrative. I've added the vote that you just had and the motion and second. But I will just make sure it's clean, so I will send it to you in the morning and you can take it from there.
Okay. I'll get it and I'll send it out to everybody tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, good luck.
Thanks, Bill.
Next on the agenda, new application. Solari Self-Storage, a site plan review pre-application. Brandon Solari is proposing site development at 2492 Portland Road, tax map 12, lots 11 and 12 in the BI district, to include an existing property maintenance business and create 4 self-storage buildings. Along with this, the applicant is proposing to also include a 75 by 60 warehouse building for use by his existing property maintenance business. Brandon Solari is the owner applicant and Jason Haskell, PE of DM Roma Consulting Engineers is the applicant's agent. And I see Brandon is here and Mr.
Jason's also here.
Yeah, there he is. And Jason Haskell is here. And then I would say the person between Susan and Jason is here, but on your computer, it probably doesn't look that way. But there was somebody else here, I believe, who had some dealings to do with this particular application. So, folks, take it away.
Oh,
So-
yeah. Whoop.
Yeah, for Jason, so where this is at sketch level, as you know, I don't normally do a memo for the board. I allow the applicant to present to the board and the board to have that give and take back and forth with each other regarding any issues, concerns that you have. So we'll leave it at that and let Jason take it away.
Okay. I'm not sure who's in charge of the Zoom meeting, but it'd be nice if I could share the screen.
Okay, hang on just for a
Looks
second.
like
Okay. You should be able to get in there now.
perfect. Let's see here. So there we go. So Jason Haskell with DM Roma Consulting Engineers. Brandon's here with me as well. If you have any questions at the end. The property itself is 4.65 acres total. It's the original parcel that Brandon owns with his father. Is the western portion of this property. There was a triangular piece which included his the existing location for his property maintenance company. And recently, in the past year, he has purchased from LPM Management Incorporated another triangular chunk over here to make a more rectangular lot, something a little bit more buildable than what was allowed for him before. It's in the business office and industrial district. And as I said, portions of it are the existing gravel space and a couple of structures that he uses for his business. The proposals for 4 self-storage buildings with a total of 45,700 square feet of a mix of climate controlled units and just the typical cold self-storage facility units. He's working right now with a manufacturing company that works in the self-storage buildings, and once they finalize the layout and the colors and everything that goes along that, we'll make sure that that's all taken care of before we come back for the formal submission. This will be an unmanned facility with an automated gate and keypad here at the entrance. This entrance has been approved by DOT, and we do have the driveway entrance permit that will be submitted with the subsequent submissions. He's also proposing the shop building back here, more for warehousing and storage, as kind of to help with alleviate space constraints on the exterior of the exterior of the lot. So everything that outside now will be moved inside to clean up the property as well. They'll be utilizing the existing entrance here off of Portland Road. The self-storage buildings will just have electrical services, while the warehouse storage building will have a restroom in there. So there'll be some water and sewer aspects to this project. So we'll be working with KKW and reviewing the septic system that's already on the property. The finalized plans, when we come back, we'll have the lighting and the landscaping, which will primarily be across the frontage to clean up and provide the screening for all these buildings. Since the project will create over 1 acre of impervious area, the project will require approval from the DEP under a stormwater permit. We are anticipating the stormwater treatment and flooding control will be handled with under drain filter basins or underground stormwater storage beneath the pavement. We'll also be impacting some of the wetlands to the south of the buildings. It's about 9,600 square feet. So we'll be required to submit a NRPA Tier 1 wetland fill permit to the DEP, along with working with the Army Corps on that aspect. So we do have, plenty of work to be done, but we're hoping to get some of your initial feedback and any of your suggestions or comments on the layout. And hopefully we can come back with a well wrapped up project for final approval when we get our permits. Again, Brandon's here with me tonight, so if you have any questions, we're here for you. Thank you.
To the chair.
Yes, Susan.
I have a couple of questions, Jason and Brandon. These are really big storage spaces. One's 12,000 square feet, one's 9,000 square feet. So will each one of these areas have a bathroom as well as a sink? Or is it just one set of bathrooms for the development to use collectively? So is each storage unit going to have?
No, the storage units themselves will not have bathrooms. The bathroom will be in the warehouse storage building.
So these are not meant to be used as extra office space in addition to storage. So, I mean, what do you anticipate? Do you have a target customer or renter or is in mind for these spaces? And
so these are going to be several partitioned off storage spaces. So there'll be probably 15 by 10 by 15 or 5 by 15 storage spaces so that people can lock up their extra belongings and things like that they don't have space for. So these will
So
not
you're
be
gonna
inhabited.
You're gonna
Oh,
divide
interesting.
these up, is that right? Each one of these buildings are gonna be divided up into smaller storage areas?
Exactly.
Okay, that wasn't, I don't know why I didn't grok that. And then I guess then you wouldn't need access out the back as well as the front, because nobody's gonna be using it as like a quasi office space. It's just gonna be
Correct.
storage, right?
It's just storage. Yep.
Okay, I don't have any more questions.
To the chair, I do.
Yes, Susan.
So going on the side where your warehouse space in that other building, is that, you said that's currently already there and the access is already there off of Portland Road?
Yes.
So is the warehouse storage building going to be constructed? Is that my understanding? But the other
Cor-
building is currently there?
So right now there's two buildings. There's kind of the residential structure out front and then a garage in the back. Brendan, please correct me if I'm wrong there, but and then that building will be demoed.
Okay,
The garage space here will be demoed in place of the storage building.
so that is new construction. The warehouse storage building is also new construction, but the other one is not.
Correct.
Okay. And that's going to be accessed, the only way to access that is the current drive that's there. Is that going to be constructed, widened, or anything else? Just curious, because you said what you're talking about for the storage facility needs to be obviously constructed to make that. But the one access that you have right there towards the current building and the new old barn, new construction, is that going to be, is that changing, or is that the current and going to be staying the same? Just for clarification, because you did say that we're not doing anything else for accessing Portland Road.
As of right now, we'll be maintaining that same access road.
So the only
Going
thing
up.
on that part of your project is just basically demoing that barn and rebuilding this for a more active storage for his business.
Correct.
And that's where sewer and septic and that kind of thing is what you're talking about, because that's where there's going to be actively utilizing it for their business.
Yeah, so they'll be in. Oh, sorry, Brandon, was that you?
Oh, no, you're all right. Take it over.
No, there'll be the rest, a bathroom in there that we'll need to take a look at if we need to expand the existing septic system that's out there, and we'll also need to, look at if the existing water service will be adequate for this
Okay,
extra bathroom.
all right, thank you for the clarity, I appreciate it.
So the chair, can I ask a few questions? Maybe
Absolutely.
Susan, you might have been asking the same thing, but maybe I didn't hear it. The answer for the warehouse, right now, it looks like the access will be its own driveway. Is that true?
Yep, it'll have its own, so it'll be completely, the access of the two uses will be completely separate.
So, okay, so if someone was in at the paved area shown on the left for the warehouses, they wouldn't be able to drive over it towards the warehouse. They'd have to go out to Route 1, come back in.
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
It's fenced.
but there still would, you still would have to add some new driveway to get to that warehouse.
So right now, this is all gravel out here in front of the existing garage.
Okay,
So this will all be the access to get into the storage building.
okay, it wasn't clear there. So that's already all gravel right now. Okay,
Correct.
good.
If you guys look on Google Earth and put that address in, you can see the red house and the dirt driveway that goes to the garage out back.
Hmm.
It makes it a lot clearer.
Yeah, I would suggest, Jason, once you move from the sketch level to an actual set of plans, that you really define, those edges for current driveway, whether it's gravel or paved. And, really further define some of the edges of treatment that exist out there, so that it's much more visually capable of seeing for folks.
We can definitely do that.
You look at the road view, it takes you right to the front of that house.
While you're on that photo, just clarification for Susan and all the board members, you can see the little building that's currently out behind the house.
Mhm.
That's the one that you were asking about, that will be larger warehouse storage building being built. And that little building being taken down.
Right.
Jason, what's the distance on the proposed mini storage area between the edge of Route 1 and your gate that allows access into the site?
It's about 40 feet.
Okay.
I apologize for not knowing what this symbol is. What are the cluster check symbols that are in the middle of the plan and on the road? The ones that look like little diamonds or shapes of diamonds in them, and they're circular shapes. What does that stand for?
This area right here.
All of them, yeah. What does that stand for?
Yep. So those are rock outcrops.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
that's where we can actually see the rock. This is going to take some blasting. Yeah.
There's some along the roadside and.
Yep. So yeah, there'll be some through here. This could possibly turn into some of the screening as well, just blasting the backside of this rock for the driveways, but also providing some screening as well. It's a pretty high outcrop.
So as you said, on your next level, and this, again, this is just a sketch level, but the next level will be some whatever landscaping and things you'll be having actually to have on the front for coverage and for what's going to be on Portland Road.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And there is a 25-foot landscape buffer that we held that will dress up that frontage.
So I have a couple of questions for you, Jason.
Sure.
The wetlands on the very end of this property.
Yep.
Yeah, this whole section in here is wetlands, is it not?
Through here.
Nope, further back over. You've got it
It's
shaded off.
cross hatch.
Yeah, back in there.
Yep. So this is the edge of the wetland here, and then this is the other edge. So all this is wetland through here. So we've tried to keep everything as close to his existing business as we could to avoid the wetlands as much as we could.
And how much of that wetlands is being impacted that I can see looking at this grayed out area?
Yep, that's 9,600 square feet, or 9,620.
Okay,
So it's over the DEP's threshold for wetland impact without permitting.
So
And
you'll be applying for a permit, the DEP?
Correct. Yep. So we'll have the stormwater side of things, then we'll also have the natural resources side of things.
Could that filling in be avoided by moving the whole project to the north? Like 30, 40 feet?
Well, what I was trying to do is also provide a place for stormwater treatment and to provide some type of a discontinuity between the two uses. So the plan that I've been looking at is making this kind of a pond, like a filter pond,
Yeah.
to provide the stormwater treatment that's needed, because there's not much room over here because of the wetland impact. So we're kind of constrained with this site.
Yeah, right up against it.
To the chair, why is building 2 so much, it's impacting, it's causing, because of the wetland issue, so much larger? Is there a thought process in regard to, I know that you want to utilize as much land as humanly possible, but it does move all of the pavement and everything else so far over into the wetland. Building 2 is so much larger than building 1. The other ones are all the same size.
As you can probably guess, is, we're trying to get as much space as we can, storage space as we can.
Right.
And kind of the thought process behind the limits of it was to keep the buildings out of the wetland, so that we can show that we've provided some avoidance of the wetland impacts by not including buildings inside the wetland impacts, but just the pavement treatments.
my next question, how much of the roadway is going to be paved?
I was just thinking that.
So everything that you see in the solid gray hatch is going to be paved.
Okay. And where do you plan on putting the snow?
So what we did was I provided some space along here for temporary storage of the snow. And then at some point, like a lot of these self-storage facilities, it would need to be loaded up and moved off site once it gets to a point where it can't be moved off to the sides.
I think my last question, how much of this property was clear cut?
I do not know that area. I would say that
We did get a permit and a forestry plan when we did the logging. I know that. I don't have that in front of me right now, but
You had a permit from the town?
we did.
Okay.
Yep.
Looking at the picture on Google Earth, it looks like most of it was cut.
it's about 90,000 square feet, so an acre and a half. No, that's 2 acres.
Ooh, yeah.
Jason, was that just done for this project or was it done before? Was it done in anticipation of building these storage units, or was this, Brandon, something that was done earlier?
This was done earlier. We actually just transitioned this project in kind of some of the working phases of it. So we had the forester and the permit and some talks with the town about getting in here and logging this site to see what this site looked like prior to us moving forward with anything. So we logged this based on the tax map and the best use of the property was staying out of the wetlands.
So this was actually done, it looks like the clearing was done in 2018. Does that
Yeah,
sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, just an FYI, it was pre my involvement, so I had no discussions with him about it. which brings up another point for discussion, I guess, Brandon. And I didn't have that opportunity to discuss it with you at the time, but what about the permitting on your current business? Are you living in that house, or is that just a contractor type business? And do you need to get a contractor permit as part of this whole review?
I am currently living in the house. I've been living here for the past, 5 and some change years. But we are looking to get approved as a contractor yard as part of this process. So that way I'm in full compliance moving forward.
Okay, so Jason, you'll want to make sure when you put your application and paperwork together that that's clear that is also being sought.
Will do. Yep, that makes sense.
So I guess looking at the map, it's really hard to tell. But when I look at the very southeastern corner, I think, of building 1 and building 2, it seems like they touch the wetlands.
They're proposing to fill it in though.
You're right, Tom.
Yeah, Yep, so this darker line here is the edge of the existing wetlands. So the buildings themselves are right up against it. But those kind of part of our avoidance and minimization that we'll need to work with the DEP on.
Okay.
And obviously going through their process is always, things can change. So we'll try to get a sense of their requirements before we come back with a finalized site plan submission.
So the purpose of all of that asphalt, tar, blacktop is simply just because you need to create the slope and get away from the wetlands to basically put your buildings right up against them? Because that's a
So
lot of.
this is more the maneuvering of the vehicles coming in and around. That's what all this pavement's for, is for anyone that comes around this way with a trailer or a box truck to be able
And
to
there's
make
clearance?
that turn.
So the other side, there's not that clearance. And so that was going to be my question to you, as you're talking about trucks to clear out your snow and things coming in. Is there clearance enough for trucks to come in and clear and to maneuver other than that corner?
This is 30 feet right here. So that should give them enough space to come in and turn around the buildings.
And the purpose of the other side is for, you just said what's for that purpose. So I'm curious what the difference is one side versus the other.
It's mostly because the buildings are offset.
Because of the wetlands.
These are right up in line with each other. So you go out and around this one without much of an issue. But this area right here, this is technically, we could probably get rid of this triangle here. But we're also, one thing we're going to need to look into is some additional parking spaces for the climate controlled buildings. So, because they actually have to get out of the vehicle, walk into their unit, go through a hallway inside the building. So we'll probably want to find some space for some parking.
Okay, so moving forward, then it's just for clarity of what you just said, it's not necessarily just for maneuvering, which the other side you said has ample ability to do that. It's also you're looking into possibly having parking or sort of things, and it is because the wetlands are right there.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Definitely will do.
thank you.
I'm gonna follow up on that a little bit, Jason, as well. Once you start getting more detail into your design, touch base with the fire chief, please, and find out what he wants for whether it's just emergency vehicle access or whatnot, and put a template on it to make sure that all those maneuvers can occur.
Definitely. Yep.
I hate to say it, Jason, it would probably simplify your life if you made the fourth building the same size as the other three. Because it
Of
would
course
give
it
you
would.
a
It
place
really-
to
it
put
really would.
snow and have ample turnaround. And, you know, I think it would make life easier for you and for Brandon if you're talking about what, 3,000 square feet, not even? So, I don't know, I might ponder that one. But
Definitely. Thank you.
But another, if I may,
Yes, Tom.
another concern I have with the wetlands and the way it is for plowing. It seems like just would make sense for someone to plow and go straight ahead till they get to the end of the pavement and just keep pushing. How would somebody not to, how would you prevent that? 'Cause
From,
go ahead.
oh, no, from pushing the snow off the end.
Yeah, to go, because right off the edge is wetlands.
It's
Right.
all
If
If it
fenced.
was-
It's,
if
it's
it
all
was
fenced in.
on the west side, out back, it wouldn't be an issue if we went off the side of the pavement. Is for me, but pushing right into the wetlands could be a problem.
So right now we're showing a chain link fence around the whole facility. And that doesn't really provide much space to, and I'm guessing DEP is gonna make this a condition either way, is to prevent any snow plowing to go off the edge. So the fence is there tight so that they can avoid that issue.
Well,
Okay.
if DEP doesn't, we probably will.
All right, perfect.
Okay, well, good deal. Does the board have any other questions at this time? No. Hearing none, I will take back screen control.
There we go. Well, thank you everyone for your time.
Oh,
And
thank
we'll
you
be
for
back with
coming and doing the
more detailed plans.
We
Thank
shall
you.
Look forward to seeing you in the future.
Sounds good. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay,
You
Take
too.
care, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Yep.
Okay, on to the next item on the agenda, which is the town planner's discussion of the subdivision amendment regarding utilities. Just talked about
Yes,
it.
so, no, go ahead.
No, we had talked at the last
Yes.
meeting about looking at the ordinance to change the ordinance so that we would require underground.
Correct. And when I looked at the ordinance during the last discussion, quite frankly, it was the first time I really read that part of the ordinance, and I was a little baffled by the current language you had, and I'm sure there's a history as to why. I won't question that. But this idea that a street frontage of 125 feet or less, that you'd require it to be underground, I just changed it up. And I'm proposing for you that utility serving lots within any proposed subdivision shall be installed underground. The board may approve overhead utilities when the applicant proposes affordable housing. Now, this is language that is already in the ordinance, so I tried to stay with it unless you folks want to completely change it. So only what you have that's underlined is what's proposed. So it talked about the applicant, unless the applicant proposes affordable housing, and so I changed that to state which meets the main state housing affordable housing index for Arundel. The reason I added that language was because it talked about in the comprehensive plan, which was amended in 1998 and in June 14th of 2001. And I believe there's also an update through 2014. But if you want to somehow stick with allowing affordable housing, the Maine State Housing Affordable Housing Index changes every year. The comprehensive plan numbers only change whenever the plan is updated, which means that once you've updated that plan, the next year it's outdated. So if you wanted to continue to allow some sort of opportunity for affordable housing to have above ground utilities, I added that language. But I also added that they guarantee that 25% of the homes be built shall be in that target market. So they would have to guarantee that 25% of the homes in any subdivision, if they want to have above ground utilities, be affordable based on the Maine State Housing Index for the town of Arundel, and that they have to guarantee that at least 25% of those homes would meet that index. Now, I know there's probably a lot of debate around it, but understand when I say, and when we talk about this housing index, affordable housing is for the median income household. It's not low income housing. It's not subsidized housing. It's for, quite frankly, someone like myself, who, you know, is looking at a median household valued house, whatever it may be. Down that way now, it may be, you know, 450. And that's going to change every year, and they adjust the target rate based on incomes for the community. So one community's target dollar amount may be higher than another community's target dollar amount for a median income home, but it's not targeting subsidized housing. It's not targeting any other housing other than, you know, school teacher, policeman, fireman, planner, anybody like that. So I just want to make sure that that's understood when we talk about median household income.
CJ, I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, no, go
Well,
ahead.
so why, in the state of Maine, are there provisions like this for utilities tied to affordable housing?
Nope.
Because I don't know why affordable housing is the only one that gets to have the choice, so to speak. And I wonder if we do it on a ad hoc basis where the developer would have to show either why they couldn't. I still don't understand. Let me just back up. I still don't understand why our provision is tied to affordable housing. And
So
unless that happens in the state of Maine and we're just following suit.
So a couple of things. One is the note at the bottom of the proposed amendments. I do say, you know, trying to stay in the spirit of the old ordinance, because the current language in the old ordinance talks about tying above ground utilities to affordable housing. So I was trying to stay in the spirit of that. If that's something the board doesn't want to tie back to above ground utilities, that's fine. We can just change it, make it one sentence basically, and say utilities serving lots within any proposed subdivision shall be installed underground, period. End of conversation. One of the reasons I suspect, but I'm not positive, having not been involved in the town's prior discussions on this stuff. Jamie, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I hear it all the time, is that utility costs and road construction costs are what drive up housing costs in new subdivisions.
Right.
In the past, a lot of towns would require a 32-foot wide road. and developers would say, do you know how much that costs for me to put down 32 feet of pavement when I could put down 20 feet of pavement and achieve the same thing and save, 12, what is it, $12 feet of pavement, which is a very costly item between sub-base, base gravel compaction, and then base pavement and final coat pavement. So the issue of discussion around affordability really stems around infrastructure costs, whether it's utilities or whether it's road design. And so my gut tells me that at some point, and I'm going to say, I suspect Tad may have drafted this. It may have come from Dan Fleischman, as far back as Dan Fleischman, that somehow they were trying to tie affordable housing to above ground utilities. But I have no history of knowing that.
And what is the rule of thumb, if there is one, for other towns and the manner in which they deal with the subject that we're grappling with now? Because a lot of affordable housing is subsidized by the federal government, and the developers that come, and I know this firsthand, the developers that come in and develop these affordable houses and, subsidized housing or whatever, we're thinking that people are scraping together their pennies to get these subdivisions up and running and make them affordable, but that's really not always the case. A lot of times it's bigger investors, their REITs and whatever, that come in and build, this kind of housing. And so I don't think
you're talking
it's
about two different things, though. I think like
No,
BJ was
but
saying,
well, let me just finish my thought. I don't think that it should be, if affordable housing necessarily should be the thing that is the requirement to have utilities above ground. I think there should be other considerations other than the fact that it's affordable housing, I guess is what I'm saying. So maybe someone has to demonstrate why it makes economic sense to have power lines above ground based upon the manner in which the land is going to be developed, what's being built, and other things. But I just don't think it should be a blanket condition. That's my opinion anyway.
Susan, I don't disagree with you. I think underground to me, is the best way to go. It eliminates problems down the road. You don't have any issue with trees falling on wires, all that stuff. But it gets very expensive. And I think that's why it ties to affordability.
$1 million a mile from somewhere like that?
Yeah, I'm putting in 500 feet, okay, right now. It's costing me 14,000 just for the conduit. Now, because I've got to go at least 3 feet in the ground, I ran into ledge. I have to blast. It's going to cost me another 25,000 to blast. So I'm already at what, 39,000, and I don't have a wire run into any of these tubes yet. Okay. So I can see where if you're putting in 2 or 3 houses like this, it can get damn expensive.
But
Now,
I don't think,
you're
should it
building-
be a blanket?
If you-
Or should it be considered based upon the expense?
I'd love to see it as a blanket, okay? If it's a standard, typical development where you're putting in 2 or 3 houses, you split the cost, yeah, you're gonna add $10,000 a piece, maybe 15, okay? If you're building a $450,000, $500,000 house, that's not a big deal. But if you're building affordable housing and low-income housing, that's gonna kill them. Now, if they get the grants, like you say, and it's backed by government funds, then okay, we got to go look at it and say, throw the bullshit flag, and you got to do it. But
So I'm gonna deviate just a little bit. I mean, I think this is a great conversation. I don't want to get away from it. I will tell you though, that the legislature in this session, the short session, is dealing with affordable housing as their #1 issue. And the criterias that they're going to be using are basically going to say the town shall do. It's not going to say the town may do. So be prepared. Because
And
you
what are
will
some of
be
those-
required, you
Gi-
will be
given-
required under state law.
Given that, Lee J, I think the state needs to be prepared for all of the pushback from almost every town in the state. Because there's no way they're gonna be able to get that to pass.
No,
enforce it.
I think you're wrong. You're wrong on this one, Rich, wrong. I was on a subcommittee that was being chaired by Maine Municipal Association, who fights on behalf of the towns. And the positions we had went nowhere fast. They didn't make it into the legislative report that's going to turn into law.
From what I understand, the legislature is saying that you have to have more than you have to have at least 2 dwelling units on each piece of property.
That's one of the things they're saying. They're
If they-
doing away with single-family housing.
If they say that, we've already solved the problem because you can have an accessory apartment any place in town. And that's a
I-
second dwelling unit. Oh, no. Did I lose it?
The utility poles above ground, items that they're considering in terms of the manner in which these developments have to be done, or are they different considerations?
Different considerations. I just printed off last week the legislative report that came out that the legislature is using to develop their proposed laws. I can provide that to you. The report itself is about 70 pages, and then there's over 300 pages of appendix, which I didn't bother to print. But I can forward that through Ann to you folks to see.
I'd be interested in reading it.
Lee J, do you have it in PDF? Lee J,
Oh, yeah.
the entire thing, including the
Yes.
300 pages of notes?
Yeah, but it comes out to be like 10 or 12 meg,
To the chair.
maybe more.
Yes, Susan?
I don't feel comfortable adding in guarantees 25% of the homes we built shall be targeted market until the state gives a requirement.
I would agree with you. I don't feel comfortable saying that you must build affordable housing when you can't define what affordable housing is. Saying that it's the median of point in the income doesn't mean it's affordable. If your median income is $7 million, nothing's affordable.
Everything is affordable.
Yeah.
So
I honestly, and this is a contention that I've had with other people. I honestly believe the problem is that we allow you, or we mandate how big your lot has to be. Because
Plus it says, as
the
goes with
land
your-
itself drives up the cost of a house.
Plus, as you were saying, Lee J, we have no way to really, what the penalty would be if you put that percentage on there. Who's monitoring that? Who's doing that policing? Who's doing all
Right.
those things? It's already been issued for policing. So I don't feel comfortable with that statement. being made.
yeah, I mean, again, I just modified the current wording in the ordinance talks about affordable housing. So if someone came in today with a subdivision and said, I want to do affordable housing and I want to meet your utilities standard, the way it's currently written, I don't think you have any way around it if they meet the standard that's in there.
But there's no reason why we have to maintain it the way it's written, is that correct?
That is correct. That
I
is
think we
correct.
should, I
Again,
think we should stop. I think we should take the first sentence. Utilities serving lots utilities serving lots within any proposed subdivision shall be installed underground. Period. That's it right there. You put them underground.
That's fine with me. I just, I was trying to stay in within the spirit of what was currently in the ordinance, so.
Well,
If you
maybe
wanna
it
end
was
it-
time for the spirit to retire, but I
So,
agree with Rich.
so if I get a development and I'm sitting there and I'm dealing with all ledge, right? It's gonna cost me $100,000 to blast the ledge. If I come in and I say, I don't want to put it underground, can I put in a waiver and we can approve it?
I would think that waiver would be, the case of ledge is probably the only instance that I can think of when you should be allowed to waive the underground use, because it is ridiculous to put it underground. But
So
if
you
it's
couldn't
not, if
waive
it's
if
not
you were
ledge,
going.
No,
for
I'm doing
affordable-
it.
You don't feel comfortable possibly waiving for portions of for affordable housing or if
No.
anything, if that moved forward?
no, I
No.
don't.
Take all that ambiguous stuff
Because it
out.
changed, the whole concept of affordability changes every time you look at it.
Right.
The state does something and all of a sudden the numbers have changed. We can't go back. If they could come up with a definition of what affordable housing is that is not based on a fluctuating number, I would feel a lot better.
Right.
I mean, I do think, to Susan's point that, and what Paul said, if there's or if there are extenuating circumstances that make it particularly onerous to put power underground, it should be a condition that can be waived by the board, you know, on a case-by-case basis. And we've done that with other things, but as a rule, people should expect in new developments that they have to put power lines underground unless they complete their case and convince the planning board otherwise. I'm fine with that. I mean, there are circumstances where power lines make sense above ground, but as a rule, I think we should try to get them underground as much as possible. That's just my,
Although we could
feeling.
run up against the whole question of maintaining the
Yeah.
rural culture of Arundel, which means they have to be above ground. Because
Yeah,
that's the way they
let's
work
not
the
go
past
there.
50 years.
No, it does not. It's not
Oh,
that.
come on. They want it to look like it looks in 1960. You're gonna put those power lines.
Oh,
above
they want it to
ground.
look like it's in 1850. Let's go back
Or
to poor rural. Let's
1930.
go
Get rid
back
of
to
all of
situation.
them.
That's right. We want to make it like it was,
Let's do it.
make it like it was in the 1600s, no power lines.
There you go.
yes, I like that.
And which is why you put them underground, because it looks that way then.
Okay,
I
so
have a
I'm gonna,
question, Mr.
Right,
Chair.
totally. Yeah,
um,
underground, guys.
Hang on, go ahead, Tom.
I'm concerned with the cost, because we will be imposing a cost onto the developer and the homeowners in effect. What do the other towns, the other adjacent towns do in this area? Are there any that require underground? 'Cause we have to be competitive, I guess. We don't want to stand out as being, I don't know, elitist or whatever. Do you know, Lee J, or anybody else, what other towns do?
it isn't really always just about the utilities. I mean, there are a number of different tools that towns are using for affordable housing. Kennebunk Port actually has a group that's putting together an affordable housing development. Other towns have purchased land and are leasing the land back to the developers for doing, I mean, there's just a number of things. There's no one set of standards or guidelines that towns are using across the state. Everybody's doing
Left
What are
it
they
open to
requiring
be
for utilities,
petitioned.
though?
Yeah, so I'm thinking more of for the underground utilities. Any of them doing that, requiring that?
That I don't know off the top of my head. I'd need to do a little research on that.
But we've left it open, Tom, for a developer to come and show the planning board either financially or otherwise why above ground utilities make more sense. So there is an open door. And it's
Well,
not, you know,
I
hard and
realize that,
fast.
but the voters in town will look at it being a requirement. And we understand there could be conditions that can be waived. But how do you explain that to people that I'm looking at, like we see it every year at town meeting? It could be that if we push this, put this on the docket, there could be a lot of developers and their friends show up and builders show up who don't want that extra cost. And then how do we explain that? How can we convince people? And
For subdivisions, not just for individual homes or what people want this, I mean, we can't control that. This is for future subdivisions built in the town of Arundel. I mean, if
Well,
there
how
comes
do
to be
we
a time
move
that
the
it's
town
cost
forward?
effective.
how do we move Arundel forward in terms
land we have
aesthetically and otherwise to, into a different place? If
Well,
we're
to-
always so stuck in what's been done in the past, how do we get out of that?
Well, my answer is, I'm listening to all this talk about this requirement, and to me, it's not a major concern of mine that they be put, if it was my house, I'd want it underground. I think it just looks better, and as far as safety and winter weather, you're much better off. But maybe people don't care all that much about it, where as much as we might care about it. Is it important enough? Should we also require sidewalks and shrubbery and a lot of other things that it is imposing an extra cost? Then do we feel, and I'll be all right going along with it. I'm not against it, but it will be seen as the government forcing builders or developers to spend more that they may not be able to recoup, they think.
But we already do that. Just by having a land use ordinance, we already add additional costs
But
onto the
is this
developer. But that developer's passing that cost on to somebody else. He's gonna
Well,
pass
is this
that cost
important enough
on
in-
with an inflation increase on it.
I guess I haven't been convinced that this is important enough of an issue to require it. Other than maybe it'll be more protected from storms, it'll look better. Other than that, it's
Well, maybe
not-
we should plead our case when we explain why we've added it, explain why we've added it. And that it's not a hard and fast requirement, but it's one that's preferential if it can be done. So,
That last development we just approved, right, was a perfect condition to put that power underground. Let's face it, it's wide open, you're not gonna run into ledge. It wouldn't have added that much cost to it. Okay, that was a perfect condition to go do it. But I didn't feel comfortable requiring, because we didn't have an ordinance that required it. Okay, this actually puts some teeth behind the way we want to go forward. And if they have undue hardship, they come back and tell us what it is, we waive the requirement, just like we do with the soil samples and all the other stuff we look at. I don't see where it's any different, Tom.
Mm,
And
You know?
I think the issue is not just the fact that they're underground and it looks nice. They're underground and it saves us money from a services point of view, because the fire department doesn't have to go out there and tie up trucks, waiting for hours, literally hours, for CMP to show up and fix the lines. It's gonna free up a lot of the time and the personnel that the fire department has available to it, so that they can respond to something other than there's wires down in the road.
It's actually a really good infrastructure bill moving forward for all sorts of things, because there's so many more things going forward with regard to the use of people working at home and internet and things, the wires being buried underneath, and therefore there's less of an issue with people not being able to work and people not being able to do things because, your cable's down because the wire's broken. So it ends up being an infrastructure bill, let alone just a appearance bill. But we're talking so much about adding in the building back the aesthetics of what we want for Arundel to look like and how we want it to be more lush and more trees and more this and more that. We'll be able to do that more often, or having that be something available, because they won't be able to cut down the things to put in the poles, to put in the wires, because it's under the ground. So basically, we're building in our infrastructure of Arundel moving forward that we want to see.
Okay,
I'm
just-
with you,
just-
100%.
Just an FYI, Rich, I forwarded to you a link to the state report.
Okay, thank you.
Now, in order to open that link, you got to hold down Control and then click on the link, and that will open the document for you.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
Yes, so you can
there a
forward
way-
it to the rest of the board members.
Is there a way
Okay.
you can write it, Lee J, that there will be some sort of opportunity if the waiver or something like that, so it's written similar to other things, or is it just implied?
It's implied, but I can add some wording that just states that the applicant can seek a waiver of this requirement. You know, just like any other, you know, what I would do is state that they can seek a waiver under whatever this waiver section of the ordinance is, article
Okay.
blankety blank, yeah.
Would that-
TJ, can you add a sentence or two about why this decision was made?
No,
That
you
is-
don't want
No.
to do that in your
You don't
ordinance.
want to do that.
That doesn't go in the ordinance.
Okay,
No.
just go with the ordinance. Okay.
Yep. So
Okay.
I'm gonna strike everything after installed underground, and then I'm just gonna add a waiver may be granted by the planning board as noted in article, whatever the waiver section is.
Given
we-
exigent circumstances.
Do we have that language anyplace else? It almost seems like we're opening up to asking
No, I
them to
think,
waive it.
I think if it's just in the waiver section, I think that's where all of the other waivers are showing up. And I don't think it indicates that you can request a hydrogeo waiver or a
Okay, that
stormwater
was my
survey.
question. I wasn't as much one to add it. I was just curious if if that was normally put in something or just
Right, I
implied
mean-
that their waiver section is available.
Yeah, we can add that. That's not a problem, but it is implied, just like every
Okay.
other section.
Okay,
Yeah, I would stay away from adding it into that section of the ordinance. If it's in the waiver section, people can look at it and see it. And if they don't, well, it's not my job to tell them, you know,
Yeah.
where the landmines are.
Fine, yep, so we'll just end it right at underground, period. I mean, that's fine, if that's what the board wants. I just was sticking with the intent and spirit of what was currently in the ordinance, and then figured we'd go from there, which you certainly debated tonight, so.
Let's find out where people stand. Paul, how do you feel about it?
I think we ought to just put it as a rule and then let them apply the waiver.
Okay,
I mean, I'd even have no issues if we added the sentence that said the board may approve a waiver allowing overhead utilities when the applicant provides evidence that increased cost of underground utilities will cause undue hardship due to cost. You could even put that caveat in there, but that may open the door to other stuff, so leave it
Yeah,
off.
just
Fine,
leave it with
see-
the waiver.
Yeah, Paul, then you're getting
Requirement.
into defining what is undue hardship.
right.
Right.
Susan,
I-
Susan Sinnet, how do you feel about it?
I feel it should be as a Arundel moving forward in infrastructure building ourselves. I think we should just leave it as underground.
Okay. Susan Roth,
Same.
Jamie,
I'm good.
Tom?
I'm good with this. I've heard I had to ask these questions.
Of course.
I didn't, but I've heard some good convincing arguments, especially Susan Sinnet, it could affect livelihoods because we are moving to at-home work. And also, Rich, what you said about the cost of the town with the fire department out there waiting, I didn't even think of that. So those are good reasons on top of the other ones that it looks good and it's safer. So I like all this. I wouldn't want to have anything added as you may waive it. I think once you do that for anything, they go looking to waive
the
it.
door.
And we-
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just full disclosure for you folks, I live in a brand new subdivision with all underground power, so I
That's
can't
nice.
sit here and say that, I can't sit here and, try to preach something that I don't live with, so.
I live in a single family lot with power underground and I love
My
it.
power is over and it gets knocked all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing for you is a follow-up. Susan Sinnet had asked about paving issues on, was it Laurel Lane?
Laura Lane.
Laura Lane. So I went back into the file, and what I found was that there is a bond that is still in place and is supposed to be completed. I don't understand this, but supposed to be completed by February of 22. And, between November and May, you can't pave anyway. So what I did was I sent the developer and the bonding company a note and said, you know, that the work had not been completed to date and that they need to renew that bond in order to keep that ability to pave that road alive. And I have not gotten a response at this point. So we'll see where that goes. I did have, let's say I haven't gotten a definitive response from them. I have received a question asking me if the bond, which is I think $72,000, had been drawn down to like $56,000, and I found nothing in the records that indicated that. So I said, no, the bond is $72,000. That was the last I heard. But
Thank
they
you.
have been communicated with.
I
And,
can just imagine the reaction of the developer on that whole question.
Well, question was asked, I did my research, I
That's
found
right.
the answer, and I followed up, so.
Okay,
But
anything
it
else
just
for
seemed.
us?
No, that's it.
Do we have anything for the next meeting? Anything come in before yesterday?
No,
Woohoo!
no, I am still waiting on the stormwater issue for trying to remember the name of the storage building operation.
Oh, yes, okay. Strickland Lane.
Strickland Lane. There's been a lot of miscommunication between myself and the applicant, not the developer, but the engineering firm. They sent me a one-page letter. Well, we shouldn't even be discussing it, but I'm continuing to follow up with them and try to clarify that issue.
Have you heard whether or not that spot out on Brimstone was sold? That other development that we did? I can't think of what the name of it was.
Don't
I
know.
mean, Arundel's Keep?
Yes, Arundel's Keep,
Yeah.
thank you.
It is, there is someone that is very actively looking at it.
Okay,
Let's put it that way. I don't think it's been sold at this point, but the other thing you should be aware of, if you're not, Mr. Paolini from,
Joe.
yes, passed away.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Yes, yes. So, but the development is going to continue on with the other owners and whatnot, but he was, you know, the visual, the front person and spokesperson, and he passed away suddenly, so he's no longer part of that project moving forward.
Sorry to hear that.
I know.
It was out on Arundel Chatter, the Facebook page.
I actually got an email from Rick Light.
Oh, did you? Okay. Because I
yes.
want to say Emily put it out on Arundel Chatter.
Probably could have.
That's too bad.
Absolutely. Yep, yep. I
Yeah, it's
met with
very
him
sad.
once before he came forward with the last project, the sketch that we talked about for the Phase 6. And first time I had interaction with him, and he was a gentleman. He was a very nice
Yep.
man. So,
Well, always has been.
yep.
When was that, Lee J?
I'm gonna say like 3 weeks ago now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, well, thanks for letting us know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very,
yeah.
very sad.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
folks have done a lot of work with him over the years, so
Yeah.
if you hadn't heard.
Yeah.
And it's a quality project. It's a nice
Yeah.
addition to
Yeah.
Arundel.
So
It really
was.
is.
Now, there's a classic example for that whole thing is built on ledge and he still put the utilities underground.
Yeah.
Do we have any
That's all I
update
have.
about the one on Campground Road? If we had, because that was on the agenda a couple of weeks and then it disappeared.
They haven't tied anything up yet.
It's still up all,
There's a new engineering firm involved in the project.
okay. So we'll be seeing it in the
Yeah,
future. Okay.
I was driving down Limerick Road, and I saw right where, I think where Welch
Yeah.
development, There were signs for lots for sale or something.
Duplex.
Is there a subdivision going in? And I don't know if anybody else has seen that.
I
Yeah.
saw the sign today. It's the first time
Yeah.
I've seen it.
And it was cleared and there's a huge sign and it says.
My wife saw it
um,
and she said she thinks they're putting up townhouses.
The sign
recall-
alludes to townhouses, but I mean, ultimately, if you put up what, more than 3, you've got to come to a subdivision.
More than 2, once you put
More
up a
than two.
third.
Right, once you put up the third, right.
Let me make note of that and talk with Jim tomorrow because I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it's
There
I
right
think
wasn't
the
a-
Welches
There was an
own
old
that
house there
property
that got
too,
torn
don't they,
down.
Jamie?
Yeah,
I think.
They
I
all
have
the
no
way
idea who
Own
owns it.
that.
I think they own all the way to the street.
Yeah, I think they do too.
There was an old house that got torn down there and everything got leveled
They
and
clear
cleared.
cut it out. There were trees and they flattened it. It looks
Yeah.
like they're ready to build, so.
Yep, now the sign's up. It's been there for about a week and a half.
mm.
Hmm.
Well, the saving grace is if they didn't do what they were supposed to do, when Jim goes to issue a building permit for that, he certainly will be checking with me anyway, so we'll catch whatever may not have gotten approvals.
Great.
But as Lee J said, if it's only a duplex, sort of a townhome style duplex, then it wouldn't necessarily come to us.
It
Right.
just
Yeah.
was named something. That's the thing.
It was, and the sign does say
Like, welcome to the
townhomes or
something of the
townhouses. and-
homes.
a
Like,
development.
okay. It's like, oh, who's that?
But there's only one picture, so.
Yeah. One house.
I'll name my home and call it something. You're welcome to my.
Susan's Manor.
Ew, okay, we'll work on that, Tom.
I'm gonna build a 37-room house and just rent out wings.
I don't want that many people in my house.
I'm not
I
gonna
move
live
that
there.
we adjourn. How's that? I move
All
that we
right.
adjourn.
I heard a motion to
Okay.
adjourn.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. It is 8:32. You all have a good evening.
Take care, everybody.